everybody, I'm Chris. Wanted to thank you for tuning in. We're going to be doing a video series that promotes the entrepreneurial spirit. And I hope through these interviews you learn a few things that you can implement into your lives, your business, or maybe it encourages you to take a risk in the next step towards a dream you've planned for your future. So today I wanted to invite Jeshua Lauka. He is a friend and an attorney that we've been able to partner with over the years, and I'm excited for him to have an opportunity to share his story and some of the things he's learned over the years. And why don't you just go, if you don't mind, introduce yourself a little bit, tell us who you are, a little bit about your background. Sure. That'd be very appreciated.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, in general, yes, I'm Jeshua Lauka. I'm an attorney and partner at David Wieringen Lauka, a business law firm in downtown Grand Rapids. I and my partners, we practice in business law for closely held companies, anywhere from a startup business to a mid-sized company. The areas of my practice typically it is everything business related, as well as real estate and estate planning. So those are the three areas that of our firm, and so I practice in those areas, and my partners do as well. The way that we break down those areas, it's probably a little bit different than for each of us, but in general, I would say that is that's the common thread: business. And any given day, on my desk there will be transactional documents and in LLCs and corporate documents, employment contracts, real estate transactions, estate planning documents, and then litigation in any of those areas as well, which certainly keeps things interesting.
That's great. So then you you said you're a partner in that company, in that business. Tell us, how did you get connected with David Wieringen and Lauka now? And I guess what maybe sparked a passion for being an attorney in that capacity?
Wow. So that's
a big question.
Yeah, there's a lot there, and I guess I would simply say that there was a lot of different types of legal practices. There's a lot of different types of areas you could go to in the law, but with the firm that I'm at right now, quite honestly, it was looking for a right cultural fit, and I think that no matter what you do, finding cultural fit is key. And I found a firm that really we're aligned as partners in a lot of our values, and primarily how we see the roles of a lawyer, and ultimately just values in general, I would say.
If you had to describe maybe the purpose statement maybe that David Wieringen has in Lauka. You don't need to recite it for memory maybe, but give us a flavor for what the purpose is, what you guys exist to do in the marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is that we solve problems for our clients. I think that could be described as a lot of different businesses, but as lawyers, we're problem solvers. I think what we particularly take pride in doing is we are others focused, and I think you can see a lot of different law firms who have that value, and I think you can tell when people individually or collectively don't have that value.
So it's just nice to hear what the mindset is, what you're trying to accomplish, and that problem solving in the attorney world I think is very important. It's a very it's such a broad thing. I don't know that too many people have a context for what can be done or what should be done or how best to act in certain circumstances. So your approach in that, I'm sure, is very valuable to the clients you're serving.
I appreciate that. I think it often comes back to me that the things that oftentimes keeps our clients up at night, those are the things that they entrust to us, and we take that seriously. And I think having a client-centered approach means we're not thinking about ultimately our best interests through this process.
So then to that end, describe then maybe one or two or three of the most important core values that you feel you embody and you'd hope that your team would embody as you set a culture in your company.
Yes, I think I already hit a key one, and that's really is we're the bottom line is being others focused. We, as I'd say, as partners, being servant leaders within our organization is really important to us. I think that lawyers in general can get a reputation, whether it's good or bad, of, well, I would say it's not good, but whether it's merited or not, is being fairly arrogant at times, thinking quite a bit of yourself, and therefore really having a separation from your staff or those who aren't lawyers. And the value that I see that my other partners have as well is it's pretty lateral across the board, is that we are all a part of a team, and we all need each other to do our jobs effectively for the goal of serving our clients. There's no hierarchy in a lot of respects.
Yeah. And I don't know that your firm is looking to expand or grow, but as you guys look to, turnover happens, staffing can change, and as you guys are looking to onboard or take on new employees, what are some of the tips you might give to new employers who are trying to protect a culture that's so rich but so unique in the marketplace? How have you guys gone about protecting that culture?
That's a really good question, and I think for us, because we are in a growth mode, and we've been trying to identify candidates that can serve on our team, and it has been a process. I think number one, we're not looking to rush this process. We've been looking for quite a while. We've met and vetted through different people, and ultimately, you have to have in our industry, you have to have competency in what you're doing, a minimum competency, like in every industry, right? But
skills and abilities. Yes,
so that's a baseline, but we ultimately are not settling on that. That's not what's driving our push, because we do think as long as we can get relatively competent people, we can train them in how to practice law, because especially with younger lawyers, there's a huge learning curve from coming out of law school to the private practice of law. And I think that me and my partners, we all look forward to taking the role of younger attorneys and mentoring them. But we really really need those key values to be in place. We need to see really what motivates them into even coming into their decision to going to law school. Why did you decide to go to law school? That's a key question that we have. I think there's a lot of different reasons, and if money is the bottom line driving factor, it's not going to be a good fit at our firm. Not because we don't think it's important, but it's not the reason that drives any of us, and it certainly wasn't why I went to law school.
Yeah. Have you ever had it in the past where you've got maybe an employee or a team member who is, in the way they act or the way they show up, not embodying some of those core values? And what tips might you give a young business owner or entrepreneur in discipling that person into the right way of being, or maybe helping them self-select out of the organization if they're just not a fit? Have you had to deal with that much?
Yeah, because we're a smaller firm, and because culture is so important to us, we don't really have a whole lot of turnover. Good. The only turnover that we have is kind of typically natural turnover for the most part. Right. But in those instances, I would say more than anything, we would look back and say it's why it's so important to take your time and find the right fit. And make sure it works for them and for you, because there's a lot of good people who are looking for a position. Particularly, I'm saying for a role of an attorney, they're looking for this role, but they wouldn't be happy here just as much as we wouldn't be happy for. And so, making sure the best that we can vet that out ahead of time. Yeah. And those are really it's bottom line. It's values. Do our values align? And if they don't, then we're probably not. Neither of us are going to be happy.
Right. Right. So, and a lot of this conversation's been kind of focused on, setting a culture, team building, and I think for many right now that's been a challenge, is finding and acquiring good talent. And it sounds like for you guys, does that happen organically? Does that happen through referrals, or what? Where do you guys find talent for expansion or growth?
Another good question. So we're fortunate that in West Michigan there really is a lot of collegiality with the lawyers and the law firms, and so we have really good relationships with firms. And so if there are people that they know that either are colleagues of theirs that are in a different practice area or at a different firm or maybe just up and coming lawyers that are looking for jobs that might be a good fit, just natural, organic questions and reaching out to our contacts is a good way to go about it.
You'd like to see referrals to good talent?
We would much rather like to do it that way because we trust our relationships and we trust that people wouldn't make referrals.
And those relationships are based on a shared value system as well as partnership in your purpose. And if they believe in the purpose that you guys are about, if they like the way you're solving problems for their customers, then it'd just be natural they are in groups with others that would see it the same way.
That's exactly right. And so, and I can, and part of this, I think, is it just takes time to develop those relationships. It takes time to know people. And I think of, most recently we had I had a recommendation for a younger lawyer that might be a good fit, but it's from a lawyer that years ago I met through having we had a trial together, and I could tell by the way he conducted himself and the way that he practiced law, he was competent, but he did things the right way, and so we could tell we had similar values, similar approaches to valuing the clients, and so not only does that make a situation where when conflicts come up, cases, I send him work, and likewise, but where if he's making a recommendation to a younger lawyer that he simply can't take on for a full role, I take that as coming from a good source that I trust.
That's great. So one of the things I've always respected about you, Jeshua, is and this is shifting gears just a little bit, I think you have a heart for your community, and I think you've got a heart for those that you're serving. If you would, and I know this is going to feel a little uncomfortable because you might feel like you're bragging on yourself a little bit, but share with us some of the ways that you get involved in the community and why that's important to your firm and you personally. And I know that's not necessarily, you don't do that for business purposes. You're doing that to truly make a difference. Why is that, and what does that look like for you?
Wow, thanks. That's a lot. So I think I will probably, the best way to answer that is probably just to talk about the why. And it probably goes back to why I even became a lawyer to begin with. And part of it is it's just part of my story. My story, meaning I grew up in Saginaw, Michigan, and some of the earliest memories that I had were living with my mom, who never graduated high school, and my three siblings in the relative's basement. And my dad was never around. My dad was a drug addict, and he ended up dying from his drug addiction. And we grew up in an experience with trauma, poverty, and chaos, so to speak. And because of all of that, ultimately, when and now just to kind of get even a little more personal, ultimately when God grabbed a hold of my life and changed the trajectory of my life, he put within me a passion to study law. And part of that was I was just very interested in justice, particularly for justice for people who were vulnerable, like I'd experienced as a kid. And so going to law school, my thoughts of what I would be doing changed. I went to law school thinking I'd be working for some international nonprofit like International Justice Mission or something like that.
Right.
But ultimately came back to Michigan and doing private practice of law, started just giving back with some of the organizations that were near to my heart. And so I guess speeding up to present day, I'm very involved with Mel Trotter Ministries. I've served on the board there for maybe going on 9 or 10 years almost. And before that, served on the Kalamazoo Board of Gospel Rescue Missions in Kalamazoo. And
with the history of your father, it's very consistent.
Yes.
In where you're serving now today, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I think that probably so. There are West Michigan in general has a lot of good charities, good nonprofits. West
Yes.
Michigan is very philanthropic, very charitable minded. It's one there. So there are no lack of opportunities to give back and be connected.
Right.
I specifically chose to reach out to a place where the people walking through those doors, oftentimes they feel like family. They feel like people that they could be my family, and but for God's grace, that's where I would be. So that's why that's my passion. That's why what drives me to give back and be involved as much as I can.
And I love that who you are is consistent wherever you show up, right? And that creates, I think, a great sense of peace, I hope, in your life, where who you are at church, who you are at home with your family, who you are when you show up to work can be the same person. There's a very peaceful consistency about that throughout all of life. Your passion shows up in any of those places, and that's exciting to see.
Chris, I think you've hit on a really important point. That is a challenge, I think, for everybody.
Yeah.
Is being who you are, your whole self, and in every different sphere that you are.
Right.
And it's a challenge. It's a challenge because of a lot of cultural pressures and.
Correct. To present or pretend to be something you aren't, so that people in certain spheres of your life see you or look at you in the way you want them to see you or look at you.
Right.
But I think your purpose is best executed when you can be authentically you and truthfully you wherever you show up. And that's what I think is really cool about what you're describing here. The passion for your work, the passion for your nonprofit engagement isn't just profits. Those things are fine. It's okay to make a profit and to solve big problems and get paid very well for those solutions. But in as much as it accomplishes your purpose and your mission, you will find joy in the work and, I think, thrive where you are. Again, I have a heart for the entrepreneurial spirit, and I want to see people do that in a way that is from the heart. What are some tips or ideas, last thoughts that you might have for someone who's considering that risk, that next step?
I think that it kind of ties into our last topic. I think that entrepreneurs, when you're younger, you're really, I think you probably have some insecurities, some pressures of succeeding and fear of failure. I think understanding that there are so many people who want to see you succeed and not being afraid to ask for help, because there are people, I'll say particularly in this community, because this is the community I know, that if you reach out, really are there to help you. People, for the most part, people want to see good things happen to other people. And when you're starting out and you're taking a big risk, you need a safety net. You need a group of people that can come around you and help you in the areas that you don't know. And so not being afraid to ask for help. I think that some people, there's a saying that act like you've been there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's you haven't been there sometimes, and I think what that can probably discourage is people from being afraid to ask for help, to say, I don't know what I'm doing in this situation. I feel this is risky. But in every type of area, every type of business advisory roles, there are people who are willing to offer free advice to help, to be a network.
Yeah, and I remember when we first met years ago, I was just getting into the industry, and just sitting down to breakfast and the encouragement you gave me was helpful. Pointing me in a direction towards maybe networking opportunities, or sharing a little bit about your story and some of the challenges you overcame was helpful. And I would personally encourage, for what that's been for me, find a mentor, find a group of mentors, of people that can invest into you, that care about the outcomes for you, because I think your success will be stronger and better and more secure, and you'll avoid some of the pitfalls that I think a lot of sales professionals can fall into. I was at an event this past year, it's a couple of months ago now, and got to hear John Maxwell speak. He's the author of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And when he was sitting there on stage just kind of describing his personal story, he said, I think of this like a fire poker. You are the fire poker, and when the fire poker goes into the fire, it becomes red hot. That's kind of, as you engage with your mentors, as you engage with people that you respect and want to be like, you start to heat up. You pull that fire poker back out of the fire and feel you can do it on your own again. It cools down. It becomes less, so put yourself near the fire. Do your best to find people you respect and want to be like someday, and spend a lot of time with them. I think the saying goes, you are the sum of your 5 closest friends, and that's been certainly true for me, and it sounds like true for you as well. So thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate you sharing some of your story. I love to hear the passion. For people who might want to get in touch with you, we'll have maybe some contact info. But what are some of the best ways to get in touch with you or your staff if they have need of help? Maybe they're buying a business, maybe they're putting together a personal will or a trust. What are some ways they could engage with you if they need your help?
Yeah, thanks. The best way would just simply be calling our office number. That's going to be it.
Easy enough. I like it.
Or sending me an email.
Okay.
Those are 2 of the best ways.
Okay. We'll provide some of that information in the link. Would strongly recommend getting to know Jeshua if you're in our local community. And thank you so much for watching today. We look forward to future opportunities to hopefully bring some great interviews in the future. Thank you.